Look, I wish I could tell you this was some cool sci-fi movie, the kind where the hero makes a wisecrack, punches an alien in its weird-looking face, and saves the world before the credits roll. But it wasn't like that, not even close. The day the Zarthorians came, the sky didn't just fall, it shattered. Their ships were like enormous metallic insects, blotting out the sun over every major city on Earth. They didn't bother with introductions or warnings. One minute I was worrying about a history test. The next, giant laser beams were turning skyscrapers into piles of smoking dust. It was over before it even began. The Zarthorians were tall, spindly creatures with skin the color of a nasty bruise and more arms than any self-respecting being should have. They moved with a creepy, silent grace, rounding us up like cattle. Humanity, the proud species that had conquered the planet, became a workforce of slaves overnight. They put glowing collars on our necks that delivered a nasty shock if we stepped out of line. We built things for them, we mined for them, we served them. We were just another resource to be exploited, no different from the oil in the ground or the water in the rivers. Resistance was, well, it was a good way to get vaporized. Most people gave up. Hope is a fragile thing, and it's hard to hold on to when you're sleeping on a cold floor and your breakfast is a gray paste that tastes like despair. But some of us had a secret, a very old, very furry secret. My family and others like us carried something ancient in our blood. It was a rage, a wildness that we had spent our entire lives learning to control. We were werewolves. The Zarthorians, with all their advanced technology and big brains, had scanned our biology and seen nothing but ordinary weak humans. They had no idea what was lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for the moon. The invaders thought they had broken us. They paraded through our ruined streets, their multi-limbed bodies casting long shadows, confident in their absolute power. They saw our bowed heads and took it for surrender, but for us it was different. Every shock from the collar, every sneer from a Zarthorian guard, just stoked the fire inside. It fed the beast. We were biding our time, watching and waiting. They had taken our homes, our freedom, and our dignity. But they hadn't taken our secret. And that secret was going to be their biggest and last mistake. The moon was our clock, and it was ticking. The Zarthorians split us up. Some of us were kept on Earth, forced to toil in the ruins of our own world. But many more were herded onto transport ships, massive metal coffins that smelled of ozone and fear. The journey through space was a blur of darkness and the low hum of engines. I ended up on one of those ships, crammed in with thousands of others. We were cargo, plain and simple. When the doors finally hissed open, we weren't greeted by the familiar blue sky of home. We were on Zarthos, their home planet. And let me tell you, it was a dump. A purple sun hung in a sickly green sky. Life on Zarthos was even worse than on Earth. The air was thin and tasted like burnt metal. The work was harder, the guards were meaner, and the alien landscape was a constant, ugly reminder that we were a million miles from home. I was sent to the mines, digging for some glowing blue crystal they loved. Down in the dark, surrounded by the clanging of picks and the grunts of exhausted humans, it was easy to feel hopeless. But even here, I found others like me. A subtle glance, a shared scent on the stale air. We found each other. We were a pack, scattered across a hostile galaxy, but still a pack. The Zarthorians were arrogant. They were so sure of their technological superiority that they never looked closer. They saw us as simple primates, good for manual labor and not much else. They never considered that some of their new pets had claws that could shred steel and teeth that could snap bone. Our secret was our only weapon. We communicated in ways they couldn't monitor. A low growl mistaken for a cough, a flick of the eyes that held a world of meaning. We started to organize, right under their stupid, multifaceted noses. The plan was simple: survive, wait, and get ready. On Earth, our scattered brethren were doing the same. My cousin Lena was leading a resistance cell in what used to be the Rocky Mountains. Through coded messages passed by the few humans who operated the communication relays, we stayed in touch. It was risky. A single slip-up would mean death for all of us, but it was necessary. We were two fronts in the same war, separated by an ocean of stars. They didn't know it yet, but the Zarthorians weren't just fighting a slave rebellion. They were fighting a coordinated planet-spanning werewolf uprising, and the full moon was coming. Here's where things got complicated. Back on Earth, the lunar cycle was as predictable as my little brother stealing my fries. 29.5 days. You could set your watch by it. That rhythm was in our blood, the trigger for the change. But Zarthos wasn't Earth. As we toiled under the green sky, we watched the nights. This planet had two moons. One was a tiny, fast-moving rock we nicknamed Zippy. The other was a huge, lumbering giant with a sickly yellow glow we called Big Gus, and their cycle was completely out of whack. It wasn't every month. It wasn't even every 2 months. It took us a while to figure it out. The first full alignment of Zippy and Big Gus happened nearly 6 Earth months after we arrived. We felt the familiar pull, the fire in our veins, the cracking of our bones. but it was stronger, more intense. The combined lunar energy of two moons supercharged the transformation. We became bigger, faster, and far more powerful than we ever were on Earth. The guards found a few mangled patrol drones the next morning and just chalked it up to a malfunction. They had no clue that their docile slaves had spent the night as 10-foot-tall engines of destruction. This changed everything. The long wait between transformations was both a blessing and a curse. It gave us more time to plan, to coordinate with our allies back on Earth. We could lay low, gathering information and identifying weaknesses in the Zarthorian infrastructure. We learned their patrol routes, the shift changes for the guards, and the location of their weapon caches. But the curse was the waiting itself. The rage built up inside, a simmering volcano of hate that had no release. We had to pretend to be meek, broken humans while the beast inside clawed at our ribs, begging to be let out. It took every ounce of our willpower not to just snap. Our new power gave us a new plan. It wasn't just about freeing ourselves on Zarthos. We had to get home. We had to liberate Earth. The goal was to use the next full alignment to seize a transport ship. It was a crazy, suicidal idea, but it was the only one we had. On Earth, Lena's pack would use the regular full moon to launch a simultaneous worldwide assault. We would hit them on two fronts, creating chaos and confusion. The Zarthorians thought they were masters of the universe. We were about to teach them a lesson about what happens when you poke a sleeping wolf. The night of the twin full moons finally arrived. Big Gus and Zippy hung in the sky like two giant spotlights, flooding the alien landscape with their eerie glow. The air crackled with energy. Down in the mines the change began. It was agony and ecstasy all at once. Bones snapped and reformed, muscles tore and regrew, thicker and stronger. Fur sprouted from our skin. The Zarthorian guards heard the first howl and froze. It wasn't a sound of pain or fear, it was a declaration of war. When the first hulking werewolf smashed through the reinforced gates of the mining camp, the aliens' confident expressions melted into pure terror. The battle was brutal and swift. Their laser pistols were useless against our speed and ferocity. We were a storm of claws and teeth, a primal hurricane of vengeance unleashed. We tore through their ranks, our howls echoing across the purple plains of Zarthos. Our target was the spaceport. Every step of the way, we fought. We were no longer slaves digging for crystals, we were warriors fighting for our home. We disabled their communications array first, cutting them off from their forces on Earth. Then we fought our way to the largest transport ship on the landing pad, the Star Gouger. It was our ticket home. Meanwhile, halfway across the galaxy, the full moon rose over a broken Earth. Lena's pack launched their attack. From the mountains of North America to the ruins of Europe and the jungles of Asia, werewolves rose up. They sabotaged Zarthorian factories, ambushed patrols, and freed human prisoners. The aliens were caught completely by surprise, their forces stretched thin, trying to contain dozens of uprisings at once. Their grip on our planet, once so absolute, began to crumble. The howl of freedom on Zarthos was answered by a chorus of howls from our home world. It was a symphony of rebellion. Now we are on the Star Gouger, hurtling through the blackness of space. We taught ourselves to fly this thing on the go, which has been interesting. Behind us, Zarthos is in chaos. Ahead of us, Earth is still a battlefield. We are a pack of angry werewolves in a stolen alien battleship, and we're going home to finish the fight. This isn't just about survival anymore. This is about freedom. The Zarthorians wanted to make us their pets. They're about to find out that this pack doesn't wear a collar. The hunt is on, and we won't stop until every last one of them is off our planet.